I'm not very...
Welcome to NWA Cane Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
I'm the true champion, and they make me the underdog. I'm going to show them all they're wrong, because I'm the champion. I'm the real champion. There'll never be one like me.
All right, welcome back to the show, guys. We're a little late. We had some technical difficulties, but we got them figured out. If you've never been here before, we interview dog men and women from all over the world, and just at this channel, it's more the student channel. We embrace the student mindset. Back again, Mr. Armin Winkler. How's it going, sir?
It's going fine. How are you?
I'm good. It's better now, ain't it?
Yeah.
Miss Winkler say today, didn't she, man?
She did.
Yeah. So glad to have you back. The first show we did had a very good reception, thousands of views and already. And
Glad to hear that.
Yeah. So it was really good. We're here to talk mainly about the Doberman project, the new Doberman project. I'll pull it up on the screen and I'll just read something very quickly. So to get people up to date here. So can you see that, Mr. Winkler?
I can. It's a little small print, but...
Okay. I'll just read just a paragraph or two.
Okay.
Finnish Kennel Club board approves Doberman crossbreeding project and other key decisions. The Finnish Kennel Club board met on May 7th and May 22nd, approving a number of initiatives affecting breeding, governance, education, and international activities. One of the most significant decisions was the approval of cross-breeding project for Dobermans. The project aims to improve the breed's overall health, expand the gene pool, and increase genetic diversity. The primary focus is reducing the impact of dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM, a serious heart disease that affects approximately 60% of the breed population during their lifetime. The approved outcross breeds they're going to use are the Gordon Setter, the Hoverwart, Finnish Laponian Herder, I hope I'm saying that right, German Shorthaired Pointer. Armin, what's going on, sir? What are your thoughts on this?
So I certainly agree that the Doberman needs help. Give me a second. Crisis, give it away. My wife is still shuffling dogs around, so we may get a few little comments from somebody not invited.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So the Doberman has been in trouble for a long time. And I'm glad that the Finnish Kennel Club has acknowledged that. I don't know if the Finnish Doberman Club has acknowledged it likewise, because they're the ones that are really the stewards of the breed.
Okay.
The Kennel Club in itself is, it gives the permission for projects like that to happen, but there has to be willing participants in the Doberman Club, and breeders have to be willing to participate in it. The one thing that's not really mentioned, I mean, health is a huge problem in the Doberman. DCM, you already mentioned. There's also von Willebrand's disease, which is basically a form of hemophilia in dogs. There's also DCI, or what's it called? CVI, cervical vertical instability, which is Wobbler's disease.
Wobblers, yeah.
Which is basically an instability in the cervical vertebra, where the movement of the vertebra creates friction that creates swelling, which causes pressure on the spinal cord and causes symptoms of lameness, paralysis, and so on and so forth. Those are the three main ones that are very, very specific to the breed. Cancer is another one that happens very frequently.
Right.
It happens with all breeds. With the Doberman, it just seems to happen younger and more often. So there's definitely a need for salvation, let's say. And I mean, the Doberman is dear to my heart. I've lived with them since I was, let's say, 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a shame when you lose a dog. So we own Doberman still. My wife's a very committed Doberman person. Worked them in the military as military work dogs in Norway. Very, very solid, very, very strong dogs. And we had a female, really nice, very solid working female that was really a lot of fun. 6 years old, running around playing, fell on the ground, dead.
Yeah.
Cardio.
Right.
Her son, because this happened obviously before she died, she had a litter with another very accomplished Doberman. You know the lady Ashley Sturza's dog.
Oh yeah.
And had a nice litter of puppies. We kept one, and he's 5.5, and he was diagnosed with DCM last week. And he was diagnosed not by Holter or something like that. He was diagnosed because he was showing some severe symptoms already, visible symptoms outside, enlarged liver, enlarged heart. So it's a devastating thing to have that happen to a dog who is a quality dog, a good, fit, fun dog to work. He's just a super nice dog to have. But he's going to die.
Right.
And we know that. So now we're on death watch. He's getting medication to sort of slow everything down a little bit, but the reality is he's dying. And we're just waiting. And we have lost, like I said, that 6-year-old, his mother. We lost one that my wife, Tazi, basically rescued from euthanasia while she was still in the military in Norway. He was a great dog, also died of cardio. He was a little bit older. I think he was about 8. She has lost, I think she counted the other day when she came home from the vet, she counted, she's lost 8 or 9 Dobermans in her lifetime to see DCM. So that's something that needs to be addressed. There's just no question. And one of the problems is that a lot of breeders simply don't admit that it exists in their lines. And you said earlier 60%. I would put that number pretty much at 100.
Whoa, really? Yeah.
It's so prevalent there. You may not see it like tomorrow, but there was talk. I've had discussions about this for many, many years, because it's just such a shock to people when their dog dies so sudden and so young. And there's a lot of people that just say, oh, in my lines it doesn't exist, and that's simply not true because it happens constantly. Maybe you have a specimen who doesn't show it. And maybe the dog lives until he's old. But with a Doberman, we're almost at the point where if a dog is really good, save his semen, and don't use it until the dog lives to at least 10 years of age. And if the dog dies, say at 11, that a necropsy is done to confirm that it was not DCM.
Right. Yeah.
But nothing like that is ever done. There's these Holter. You've heard of the Holter exams?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that tells you that your dog doesn't have DCM today. Tomorrow, he could be symptomatic, and a week later, he could be dead.
Yeah.
That's how quick this happens, and that's how devastating it is. So as much as people are trying to sort of, hold off the big bad wolf that's outside the door, those tests don't really they don't prevent what happens. I think I'd have to pull Tazi into this, my wife, and ask her, but I think she had one that had a Holter monitor test. I think the dog was dead 3 or 4 days later.
So when did you see the pickup in deaths or the diagnosis, and what time frames?
It started to be probably a concern in the 90s.
Oh, the 90s. Okay.
And then it was probably there before, but people didn't test. Like, we have in Germany, they do certain health tests once they know there's a problem, but there's really no test for DCM except for the Holter. And it doesn't tell you whether your dog has it before you use them for breeding, et cetera, et cetera. So the dog is perfectly healthy. He's used for breeding. And then all of a sudden the dog dies. Well, all his offspring now carry that gene.
Yeah.
And they're not able to, they have finally now come up with a von Willebrand's test. That was also early 90s when that started becoming a bigger problem. And it didn't really show up very much, especially in the working dogs, because severe von Willebrand's, if you work them the way we worked them back then, like say in the 80s or in the 70s, the dogs would die from bleeding.
Right.
But it was a lot of times either not seen or ignored because it was just a small version of it. But it happened again and again. And because there is testing for it now, I think there's some movement in the right direction to actually address that. There's no real test for CVI either, but it is also a genetic, it's a hereditary disease, which means the dogs are born with it. Whether it is necessarily passed on, I don't know that. I have not educated myself on that enough. But it probably came through the breeding of, and again, you and I have talked about that in private. The show breeders wanted a different dog. They wanted a different looking dog. They wanted the longer necks. They wanted more elegant heads. They wanted, chests were way large, and so on and so forth. How much did that have to do with breeding animals that had certain, like maybe the large chest comes with heart enlargement? We don't know that. I don't want to say that necessarily, but the one thing is that's not mentioned in the Doberman breeding project there is who the Doberman is. Like, we don't want a Labrador with brown socks, right? Yeah. We don't want a German Shorthaired Pointer with brown socks. We want a Doberman. The Doberman is a very unique working dog, and we want to kind of maintain the uniqueness of the dog and the qualities of the dog. And a dog is much more than the outward appearance of a dog.
Yes.
You can't, people have this arrogance about them that they say that they can determine function by the way an animal looks or moves, but the dogs are never put to the test of function. So how do you really do that? The dogs have to work, and the working tests have been reduced, eliminated, and excluded from in a lot of countries. Germany still has them. I'm not sure if it's 100% mandatory anymore like it once was. Certainly was in the 90s and early 2000s, but there's a lot of countries in, like, the Scandinavian countries don't have it. Some of the Eastern European countries don't have them. America doesn't have anything like that. Canada doesn't have anything like that. The UK doesn't have anything like that. So it's already a very, very small gene pool that we're dealing with, right? If you look at working Dobermans from today, and I'm not even going to talk about the other ones, because a Doberman that doesn't work is not a Doberman. It's a poser. It's a fake. That's my opinion, and people can get mad at me for that. A Doberman is a police dog. That's what he's supposed to be. Now, we all know how it came about, and Louis Doberman and how he created the breed. We also know that Gerler added the Greyhound later after Doberman had already passed away. So there was all kinds of monkey business going on. But when the dog was a stabilized breed, it was one of the original 7 German Schutz- und Polizeihunde, protection and police dog breeds. There was 7. for many, many decades, there was 7 dog heads on diplomas, club logos, and so on and so forth. And it was always the German Shepherd, the Doberman, the Boxer, the Airedale Terrier, the Hoverwart, the Rottweiler, and I forget one.
Giant Schnauzer.
And the Giant Schnauzer, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't forget that because that's my breed.
Yeah.
So if they cannot do that anymore, I've had debates about that at the UDC Nationals and so on. And my dog works. I said, what does it do? Well, it's a therapy dog in hospitals. It makes people that are in hospital beds feel good. You know, a real Doberman, the only thing we should use a Doberman for to see if a guy is fake in that he has to be in a wheelchair. Right? Here comes a Doberman. If you can't get out of the chair, you're going to get bit. And if you're fake, and then you're going to get up and run.
Right.
But like a police dog and military dog is a very, very specific animal. And we've added the Bouvier to that circle. We've added the Malinois, of course, to that circle. You can count the Dutch Shepherd as a separate breed, maybe sort of, kind of. All right. And then you have the Beauceron. And those are 11 breeds that do probably the most noble work that humanity can think of, right? And there's 520 recognized breeds worldwide, and we have to mess up the 11. I want a Doberman, but I don't want him to bite the neighbor.
Right.
Well, then get a different dog, because the Doberman, the way it's originally meant to be, would bite the neighbor if the neighbor came into your yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I understand. I understand your position. I know your history in these dogs. Yeah. And you're probably right, because when you was talking about the show or the expo, one thing that crossed my mind when you was talking, famous sire syndrome. Boy, that could wreck a breed if you don't know what's going on. Yeah. So that's something I thought about. Yeah. So I understand your position. I know. Yeah. And another thing is, you don't look at dogs the way most people look at dogs, because you've always been in the capacity of serious working dogs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely understand that. But I do want to know your thoughts on, if it was you who had to recreate, what do you think about this breed? Some of these breeds, like the short-haired pointer, the Hoverwart. You just named the Beauceron. Why didn't they not use that one?
Well, look, there's a problem with all the breeds that they have mentioned, right?
Yes.
They don't reflect, except for the Hoverwart, they don't really reflect the working attributes of a Doberman. They don't. The Hoverwart is not quite as suspicious. He's a little more territorial. He's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit heavier. It looks like a heavy-set golden retriever, right? And it comes in 3 different colors. It's the only real working dog in the whole bunch that they're talking about. The Gordon Setter, like, which Gordon Setters are you going to use? The 3 in the world that still hunt? I mean, that's not an exaggeration. There's so few Gordon Setters that are really hardcore hunting dogs. They're not going to fix the breed, right?
Right.
The German Shorthair Pointer is the same. There's way too many German Shorthairs that don't work. And the ones that do work are typically a lot smaller and built in a way that are anatomically not super compatible with the Doberman. The herding dog, the Finnish herding dog, is a very rare breed. Again, you're talking about a very, very small number of dogs. The Hoverwart is still a working dog in Germany, and they still have an annual national championships of only Hoverwarts. But there's very few dogs that go there, because there's just not that many that can actually still work. And like, you're not preserving the stuff that's the hardest to preserve in the dog, which is temperament and character and working attributes. None of those dogs bring them, except, like I said, to a small degree, the Hoverwart. But again, the gene pool of Hoverwarts that actually still work is also very, very tiny. Gordon Setters that at least have good hunting prowess are very small. It's a very small percentage. And so is the German Short-haired Pointer. And The herding dog is completely, they herd, and people
That's
started
a whole different type of temperament. If you got a livestock guard, a herding dog.
Yeah, and people were telling me with chest swelled with pride that my Doberman got a herding instinct test. I said, "What? Like, where in the dog's genetics should be herding instinct? It's ludicrous for them to even do that as a working activity. A Doberman that doesn't want to kill a sheep is not a Doberman. They're very, very predatory. They are. That's just who they are. It's one of the things that you have to train and control to make sure that it doesn't cause you problems. But it's a true trait in the dog. They come from sighthounds. They're gonna chase and hunt and bite. And what most herding dogs do, like the Border Collie's prey drive, is very, very retarded through breeding. It's a dog that doesn't want to chase prey. It chases it, but it's satisfied when it stops fleeing.
Right.
The Border Collie doesn't have to necessarily be taught to hold up and stare when the group collects together. Have you ever been to a herding instinct test?
No, I hadn't saw one of those yet.
It's kind of funny because the sheep are well trained. They do this, like, that's their weekend job, right? So they're very, very good at this, and they're very cooperative and all that kind of stuff. You bring in a Border Collie, great. You bring in an Aussie, great. You bring in a Sheltie, great. You bring in a Doberman, and the sheep go, "What the hell just happened? This is going to go bad from all sides." You know what I mean? They're afraid. They're panicking because there's a predator in the midst. And we don't want to breed that out of them. And that's not really the right thing. So the one thing here, and I'm going to throw this out there, Sweden, which is like a hop and a skip from Finland, right? There's a bridge they can just drive across and learn. So the Swedish Kennel Club did a breeding project. I'd have to look it up. I think it was 2000, 2001 or 2 or whatever it was. Not hard to look up. I still have it in the Schnauzer magazines and stuff like that. The gene pool of the pinscher in Sweden was very, very small. And they started having health problems and so on and so forth. And the pinscher is not a very popular breed anyway. So the gene pool, even worldwide, is not very great, right? So what do we do? What do we do? Well, what they did, they bred the pinscher to a standard Schnauzer.
Okay.
Right? Because it's actually in the same kennel club.
Right.
Right? The Schnauzer club in Germany is actually called the Pinscher and Schnauzer Club. So it has the minis, Pinscher and Schnauzer. It has the standard Pinscher and Schnauzer, and it has the Giant Schnauzer. The Doberman was created by different means, so it's not part of that. But the Schnauzer resembles the Doberman in temperament. It's a true working dog. It's the coat is easily fixed. The project that they did in Sweden, they did the F1 generation, had sort of mixed coats. Right? They were a little rough, and they didn't really look like anything. They looked like mongrels because they were, right? But then they bred in the F2, they bred these mixes back to a purebred pinscher, and there was no coat problems, no color problems, nothing. They looked exactly like pinschers again. Right? So why? And here's another thing that happened. A friend of mine, I don't know if you know her or if you just know her because she's a friend of Lance Woodley's that you've had on.
Michelle Testa.
Yeah. So
she's right here listening to you right now.
Okay. So she saved her male Schnauzer's semen and froze it. And the dog was born in, I believe, 97, 98, something like that. But he was born in the late 90s. And she did a breeding with this frozen semen with a pretty good working kennel in Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic now, with also very good genetics in there. And all of a sudden, there was an injection of 30-year-old working genes because Axe was I knew Axe well personally as well, but Axe was genetically still very, very tightly linked to the old East German Schnauzer, which was really a masterpiece of working dog breeding. It really was, because it started to actually surpass and outshine the German Shepherd in the military. Like they started having more Schnauzers in the military than German Shepherds. So the fact that this 30-year-old genetic was thrown into a dog that was bred also on significant DDR, East German bloodlines, it gave such a boost to workability and health and vigor, because there's just no inbreeding anymore. There's not even line breeding. Even if you may find Axe's ancestors 8 generations back, it's such a refresher of that working blood that, like, there's a guy, I don't know how many went to Germany, but I know there's one very successful Schnauzer competitor named Timo. I can't think of his last name right now. His Facebook name is Timo Dog Sport, so you can look him up.
Okay.
He is one of the males out of this combination, and it's just watching that dog. It's just, there hasn't been dogs like that for generations now. Dog generations I'm talking about. It's so, if the Finnish people wanted to fix this, why not use a really good quality working female Doberman and breed it to and fix it? You know what I mean? It would be a very...
One second. You froze up for a minute. Could you repeat about the last 10 seconds, 15 seconds of what you were saying?
So I said, like, to me, if they picked a very good, solid breeding female Doberman that doesn't have any, at least no current health problems, and breed it to this male in Germany, I don't...
Wi-Fi. Give him a second. This dog he's talking about with Michelle Testa is 2 podcasts in here. I deal with Michelle Testa talking about Axe in depth. Talked about her dogs like I've never seen anybody talk about their dogs before. Like one of them was about Wanda. Okay, now you're back. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
back. I don't know why that froze. You froze for me too. It was everything was blank.
I think your Wi-Fi is kind of going in and out.
We have pretty good Wi-Fi, but anyway, I was just going to say, like, it's not just that that a Schnauzer would be a good match, but there's several Schnauzers in existence. I think Michelle actually has 2 of them, but North America is a little far for Europeans, blah, blah, blah. But there is a genetic boost that is 30 years old that we can throw. It's been thrown into the Schnauzer, so it's super successful, but you could also use those genetics and help out the Doberman. I'm not sure why they chose the breeds that they chose. Maybe because the black and tan exists in the Hobart and in the Gordon Setter, and that Finnish herding dog also has a little bit of that coloration. But that would be my first go-to, because the experiment was done with a pinscher, and the pinscher looks like the Doberman. The body type wise, it's very similar to the Doberman. The body proportions of the Schnauzer and the Doberman are, the Schnauzer is 1-to-1 height and length. The Doberman is 5-to-4, so it's very close as well. When you really groom down a Schnauzer to no beard and no, eyebrows or anything like that, they look very similar in body type to the Doberman, so that you wouldn't lose any body type, you wouldn't lose much. And from what the Swedish experiment showed us, you don't lose the coat. It goes very fast back to that hard double coat that the Doberman has. So that would be the smart thing to do. And maybe the Finnish Doberman Club hasn't heard about it. But the thing is, maybe those are not the breeds the only breeds that they have approved. Maybe they have actually just thought about those might be good breeds to try, but they've approved a much wider variety. I think the Rottweiler would be a better candidate as well than the ones that they chose, except you have to be very careful because the Rottweiler is also plagued with some health problems and lack of workability in a lot of them. Because they're popular and they breed them for show and yada, yada, yada. So
that expo get to you, don't it?
well, because it harms the breeds. Like back in the old days, look at the German Shepherd, because we have a great historical archive of the German Shepherd. Look at the German Shepherd from 1910, right?
Right.
And then you look at a KNPV dog from 1910 and today. The KNPV dog looked just like the German Shepherd in 1910, and the KNPV dog still looks like that same dog. Why? Because they're bred for function only.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The KNPV dogs, unpapered BRN dogs, are bred for working. That's it. The only requirement is that there's a height restriction that can be used, but a lot of times if a dog is 72 or 73 or whatever, and he's super good, they're not going to exclude him from it. Like Big Roy. Have you heard of Big Roy?
I heard of Big Roy. Yeah.
All right. So Big Roy was 125 pounds. He was over 55 kilos. You're not going to be that big and not stand over 70 centimeters tall, right? So it's and he was national champion, and he sired a ton of dogs, and a ton of good dogs. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I think the Schnauzer would be the best candidate. The Rottweiler is a consideration, but you have to also weed through the health problems. The Schnauzer is still a much healthier breed, especially the working ones. I mean, in North America, that's not necessarily true. Lots of autoimmune disease and stuff like that. But the German and the Czech Republic and the Slovakian Schnauzers are still very, very healthy, long living and healthy. And that's because they breed the dogs for fitness and for health.
Yeah. Armin, let me interject this right quick, because you said something, and these words are thrown around a lot. Bull herder. Yeah. And you just mentioned KNPV dogs, which a lot of people think the bull herder is something new, which is really not. It's really kind of the old police dog, right? They were doing this mixture. Yeah. Could you kind of explain it to the audience so they'll know that the bull herder is nothing new?
So the bull herder is, the only difference is that they're using bull breeds that are not allowed in KNPV.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So they're like, you can breed a Malinois or a Malinois mix or a Dutch Shepherd mix and breed it to a bulldog, American bulldog, right? Or even the leggier version of the pit bulls, and you end up with a bull herder. It brings together working qualities. Again, a bull herder isn't automatically good. If you use a shitty Malinois and a shitty bulldog, then you're going to get shitty offspring. It's not a magic anything. But if you use good parents, then something good can come out of that. It's just the KNPV, because it was it's a police dog organization. It's just the KNPV is a private one, and the police organization is obviously public. They don't allow the pit bulls, bulldogs, bull mastiffs. It's got a whole list of dogs that aren't allowed because they don't want those dogs to be used for police work. Because in the public eye, that would be, you know what I mean, unusual, cruel punishment, blah, 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 blah.
Too much.
It's just a lack of understanding. I think that the pit bull really doesn't bite harder than a 80-pound Dutch Shepherd either. That's just in people's heads. But for the sake of public perception, I think that's why they exclude those breeds from KNPV competition. So the KNPV people very, very strongly deny the use of any of those breeds. And to be honest, we don't know, because this has been going on for 100 years. So if you breed dogs for a purpose, like biting, the harder they bite, the more the push biting they show, that kind of stuff breeds the anatomy as well. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, if it does a job, evolution kind of works the way.
I mean, the pit bull wasn't necessarily bred to look like that. It just over time became that.
Right.
Because the dogs with the harder bite force, the dogs with the more stamina, how long they could hold on, et cetera, created that anatomical representation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big cheek muscles and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a lot of Malinois that come from the Netherlands where you look at them and you go, that's this granddaddy was a pit bull. Mm-hmm. But everybody will deny that. And maybe they deny it rightfully, because I think with that kind of breeding, you may create that body type all on its own.
Right.
I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but it's very possible. If you look at the way the East German Schnauzer looked, they were boxy, their hair was super hard. They had, in the West German standard, it says the dogs are not supposed to have too much cheek musculature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that obviously didn't matter at all in the East. And you got dogs that had a little sort of half baseballs under their cheeks, because they were muscular. They were very, very meat-headed dogs. I've worked dogs. I mean, Axe was one of them, because his head, if you shaved him, he probably looked more like a Rottweiler than he did a Doberman. He was a huge dog with a gigantic head. And because they wanted dogs to be hard-hitting, hard-biting, and able to put up with all the nonsense that was done to them. A lot of the East German Shepherds, I worked them right when the wall came down, a bunch of them. They come on the field, and when they started getting hot and they started panting, they had that same spread pink cheek look
mm-hmm.
that that pit bulls do. So it can very well be a pure function of selection of dogs over. Well, the KNPV was founded in 1907, so we're talking about 120 years now.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a long time.
So it's a long time.
Let me bounce back just a little bit. You mentioned a young lady named Ashley Sturser, Apex Doberman. Mm-hmm. She got some hell of a working Dobermans, but I noticed she, if you guys don't know, she has an interview on this channel, Apex Doberman. Mm-hmm. I noticed she also achieved an accomplishment. I don't know the name of the title, but it's a title for longevity in the Doberman. I think she got like.
No, I think it's the endurance test you're talking about.
It was no, it was some kind of. If somebody can help me out, like she had a Doberman. It's some kind of award she got for the Dobermans living like 11, 12 years old. You ever heard of something like that? Well, let me. This is my question.
Maybe if somebody knows and they can bring it up. I've never heard of it.
Yeah. But this is something I would like to ask you: do you think there are
that dog, Joe? That dog's son has cardio at 5.5.
Right.
So what the hell does that award mean, if it exists?
Right. Yeah, but I didn't know. That's what I was. This is my question: if you can find dogs with longevity, do you think that the people that's doing this cross would study some of the Dobermans who have longevity, or is just too hard to track?
Let's look at it this way too, right? So what happens with DCM? Do you know? Do you know what happens with DCM? Anatomically?
Well, the heart just gives out.
No. Slowly over time, cells of the heart muscle die.
Okay.
And then they compensate for it. And the heart gets enlarged.
Okay.
To where it gets very, very big. Mm-hmm. And then it creates inflammation, and there's cardiac sac starts filling up with fluid, and they start seeping into the lungs and blah blah blah, right? But the enlargement of the heart is a very, very prevalent symptom, right? Well, that would happen much quicker in dogs that work. So you have a show dog that runs in left circles 3 times a year and then sits on the couch the rest of the year. Maybe they have DCM and they live longer because their heart is never really put under any kind of load. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so those types of things are kind of misleading a little bit. I would say, like I said early on when we started, I would say that if you want to use Doberman studs, save their semen, and don't use them until they at least reach 10. And if they die after 10, I would necropsy them. And if DCM was the cause, then throw out the rest of the semen. Because it's genetic. If a dog has it, even if it doesn't show up until he's 12,
right,
it's too big of a risk if you want to really eradicate it.
Yeah, it's like epilepsy. You can't track it. There's no way you can really just track that stuff.
No.
Yeah. So and while we talking about that, these breeds that they're using, I know a lot of people eyebrows went up, but I think a lot of these herder breeds is they were using more for cardiovascular, heart, stamina, longevity these breeds have. But my question would be, if you mix that into the Doberman, will the project, how long will it last? You know, you got your F1s, F2s. How long can you mask it when it's something?
Well, like a true influx of new blood, new genetics,
yes, sir,
basically can erase it.
New blood,
like by mixing genetics, it's called hybrid vigor.
Yes, sir.
It can actually get rid of a disease,
right,
for many generations. Now it's obviously a disease that exists in dogs, so it may show up again. But at the rate that it shows up in the Doberman, breeding an outcross like that, not just an outcross within the breed, but an outcross to a completely different breed, would definitely have significant health effects. But again, we have to look at the totality of the dog and be true to that. And which Gordon setter are they going to use? Is it a Gordon setter that's going to have all kinds of hunting trophies on his shelf? Or is it a Gordon setter that has show ribbons?
Right.
The same thing goes. Is the Hoverwart for many, many years, many decades actually, had to have at least a Schutzhund one, or he couldn't be used for breeding.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Are they going to use the one that went to the nationals the last 3 years? Are they going to use one that's a show champion in Finland?
Yeah.
Right? Because I have never seen a Hoverwart go to the Schutzhund Championship in Finland. So do they even have working Hoverwarts in Finland? Are they willing to go outside the country and use dogs like that? It has to be a breed that's healthier, and that has to be, for the most part, healthy. Like you go back to Axe. Maybe if Michelle has any semen left, maybe she lets them use that semen for that project.
Yeah.
But here she just put it up on the.
He lived 14 and a half years.
And dogs of that era lived that long all the time. I had one that was 16. They lived a long. They were very, very longevous. I had one that came out of his grandmother. There was 8 dogs left at age 14 out of that litter. It's a very, very healthy breed, and they lived a long time. So it's I mean, the show dogs, the Doberman show dogs with the giant turkey breasts, that can't jump a 1 meter jump, like they're so much more prone even than gastric torsion and things like that because of the way they're built. Look, the healthiest breed on the planet right now is the KNPV Malinois. So we had an accidental breeding between a black Malinois that's related to a dog that I had years and years ago, sort of an impulse buy because one of my other dogs died. Super nice working dog, very good KNPV dog, high flyer, a little smaller in stature, more of a lighter dog, all black. I used him once for a litter, good puppies. One is a police dog. It was only 4 dogs. Yeah, there's only 4 puppies. One is a police dog, and one of them is a personal dog. One of them went to the guy that has Spike's Canine Fund, and he died of a heat stroke. And one of them I have, and he's a great demo dog. I do all the things that special ops dogs do with him. He's a super bomb dog. So turned out okay. And he, Ashley and my wife tried to repeat the Marco breeding with our female and Marco. And Ashley drove down from Ohio to make it happen. And, you know, they did their thing. And then she went back. And then we thought our female was done. So she was out in one of the big yards, and the little black Malinois was out in another big yard. And all of a sudden, the black Malinois is running loose outside. He's not even in any yard.
Right.
So what the hell happened? And didn't really know anything had happened. He was just out of the yard. And well, 2 months later, my wife was driving to Dulles to pick me up from the airport. I was just coming back from Africa. And just because he was too close to the due date, because she was definitely pregnant, she took the female with her in a big extra large crate so that if anything would have happened, blah, blah, blah. So she ends up texting me while we were just on the tarmac. I was waiting for customs, et cetera, that, you know, she was going into labor. So she pulled over and she waited. And then she writes back a text in giant letters, these are not Dobermans. So we have the 2. We have a female and we have a male, and the male is kind of a little bit like sort of a darker Malinois color,
right?
But doesn't have a mask, doesn't have the black mask like the Malinois do, and the female is jet black.
Okay, gotcha.
She has a little bit of brown hair, like 10 brown hairs between her toes. That's it. Otherwise, she's completely black. So they're healthy as can be. So we'll see how long they live. You know what I mean? It's and they look like Dobermans.
Right.
I can send you pictures if you want. But they look in stature like Dobermans. Their hair the females is almost exactly like a Doberman. Right. The male has maybe just a little bit extra, like another 2 or 3 millimeters of length. Their hairs are kind of, most of the time they hang down, but not as floppy as a Doberman. Sometimes when they're super excited, they actually stand up.
Right.
But anatomically, they look like thick Dobermans, like just very athletic Dobermans. And yeah, we'll see what happens with them. But I bet you if anybody bred a Doberman to that female, all the puppies would be black and tan.
Oh, gotcha.
Almost again. So then it would look exactly like a Doberman again. So then you have the health of that other, you know, it's a mixed breed dog. So he's got tons and tons of different things in him. Dutch herders, Malinois, somewhere along the line, maybe a Tavern or black German Shepherd to get the black color. Because he comes from a whole line of black Malinois. So obviously there's the black came in from somewhere, and they did have some good working Groenendales. So maybe that's what brought the black color in. But the black German Shepherd also brings that in. So sometimes if, you know, granddaddy German Shepherd brought that coloration in. So who knows? But it's a mix of working dogs. People always think that when they say the Malinois mix, they sort of imagine sort of direct mix, like parent was one, like everybody calls their police dog, the people that aren't really breeding aficionados, they say like, I have a German Shepherd Malinois mix. Well, how do you know that? He looks just like any other KNPV dog. Mm-hmm. So they imagine when you say he's a Malinois mix, they imagine that one parent was a Malinois, one parent was a German Shepherd, and these are the puppies. No. These dogs have been mixed for 100 years. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's and because they're bred just for working, the size has been very standardized. Health has been very standardized. They had a little bit of trouble in the 80s where the hips were not so well because there was no mandatory hip x-ray.
Right.
Once they started doing that, the hip stuff's been eradicated, and purely selecting for the ability to work has standardized a dog that is the most capable and the most healthy dog in the world today.
Mm. Let me
other than the Deutsche Jagdterrier. And why? Because the Deutsche Jagdterrier in Germany, and I don't know what the other countries do because it's a German breed, so they should stick to what the Germans do. Right. It is the strictest tested dog for ability in the world.
Right.
They have to do hunting tests, they have rigorous health testing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, the dog they're super, super healthy. They live a long, long time, and they're not afflicted by anything.
Right.
So that comes from function. Nobody, you cannot, like you couldn't go to Germany and buy a Jagdterrier from a breeder. Because if you didn't have somebody vouching for you and they didn't know for sure that you were hunting and blah, 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 they weren't going to sell you a puppy.
Right.
They're super, super strict about where their puppies go and what they're used for and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been hearing that breeders don't even want to search. I heard one guy was telling me about a guy that bred American bulldogs in some other country that won't even send dogs to the U.S. It's crazy. It's crazy.
But now with the CDC and their nonsense,
the 6-month rule.
We have that 6-month stuff, so it's really hard now to import a puppy because you need a breeder that's willing to keep the puppy for 6 months.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever had litters of puppies, but doing right by a bunch of puppies until they're 6 months old, that's a full-time job. It's a hard full-time job.
Yeah, 6 months, you pretty much you could do a lot of imprinting by 6 months. You know, it's pretty much mine. 6 months, I don't even want to give them up.
Yeah,
unless,
that's the other thing. I mean, you get attached to them. We kept a female out of the litter that the purebred Doberman litter, and it was a guy in Sweden that bought her, and they couldn't import the dog until they're 4 months old because of the rabies shot and all that kind of stuff. And it was hard to send her away.
Yeah,
it was really hard to let her go.
Right.
So it's I understand why breeders don't want to do that.
Right. Let me. So I know how you feel about the show, So I know I keep bringing that up, I was just trying to glance over the FCI standard for the Giant Schnauzer, and I didn't see much about temperament. I just saw more about the structural part. Maybe it's in there.
Because they care more about the anatomical stuff. But if you look at the PSK stuff,
okay.
I don't know if they have their page in German, but if you look at the Pinscher Schnauzer standard, it definitely says a lot about temperament.
Okay. So a Giant Schnauzer Doberman, the temperament should be described in the true temperament should be described in any standard, you would think, right?
Yeah. You know why AKC is not a member of FCI?
So probably because they can do their own thing.
Because they refuse to breed to the standards of the country of origin of the breeds.
Yeah, that's actually wild.
You know what I mean? Like they breed German Shepherds, German Shorthair Pointers. The dog even has German in the name, but they will not use the German breed standard to breed to.
Well, you know, us Americans, we like to show the rest of the world how to do it.
But the thing is, all the working breeds, America is ruined.
Yeah, they are failing. Yeah, they're failing big time.
And it's because the working dogs, especially the police dog breeds, have suffered the most because most people don't want dogs with aggression potential in their hands, in their home.
Mm-hmm.
So they bred deliberately to get rid of that trait. So they bred the weakest specimens, and that's the American Giant Schnauzer. It's American Doberman.
Yeah, but I remember too, Armin. I'm about to call your whole name. That's how I think about you, about this figure.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember, you know, as a kid when people always say dogs were different back then,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like having shepherds and things like that, how strong they were as a kid, like, you know, how stoic. I remember because
there's a lot of them were still from there.
They were coming closer from the working lines. Yeah.
Sure. And they were coming from the original country still.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So you are what I would say, or some would say, I'm the true preservation breeder. You would consider, huh?
Yeah, I'm a dinosaur in a way, but the thing is, like I said, those 11 breeds, and the Bulls Run is borderline, but the other ones, like there's 10 breeds of dogs that do man work for police and military, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where are they? Because people wanted the dog for their looks and not their temperament, and then breeders got them back, and then before you know it, breeders start breeding for a different goal, and that's to get puppies and dogs that stay in the homes.
Right.
Yeah. Like, look, military-wise, right? There's still a lot of police dogs in Germany that are Schnauzers. There's still a few Dobermans, not that many anymore. But like, I'm the only Schnauzer breeder, because I used to breed Schnauzers. I'm the only Giant Schnauzer breeder that has bred a tier 1 qualified Giant Schnauzer that was basically able to do all the tier 1 work that all the other dogs were able to do. The only one in the world ever.
Wow.
Right. And that's why the Schnauzer used to be a great military breed, but there's so few people that want dogs like that want to handle dogs like that, because that submits, they are hard-headed and stubborn and don't respond really well to compulsion. They respond way better to positive stuff. They need influence and corrections like every other dog, but you try to force one of those dogs to do something, they're going to tell you, like, if this is a fight, then let's fight.
Right.
They're not easy dogs, and they're not easy dogs to transfer to a new handler with.
Right. Waiting for his internet to come back in. Waiting on your internet, Mr. Winkler. Uh-oh. Anyway, I'm going to start taking questions, people. Armin, if you can hear me, you frozen.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah,
our internet is usually very good. But
I started laughing when you said the dogs be so tough. If you want to fight, we can fight. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's not a great dog to hand to a soldier. Like, you know, Rangers handle for 2 years. That's it. So they get a dog that either just came out of school or a dog that a previous handler handled, and they're given a dog, and they get a 2 months training course, and then they're supposed to go into war with those dogs.
Can I ask you something about military dogs?
Mm-hmm.
As far as their temperament, are they going to be like alpha dogs, or are they going to be more for like beta dogs for the handlers?
I don't really like that term.
Beta, yeah. Well, yeah, that me neither.
Because I tell you something,
Mhm.
there's some alpha dogs out there, like true alpha dogs, that will just not submit to anyone at any time.
Right. Yeah.
You can't work those dogs. Nobody can work those dogs. I've had some seriously dominant German Shepherd dogs in training, and they do a lot better with female handlers.
Oh, really?
Because any kind of pushing them around, any kind of demand, any kind of correction, they take as a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and then the fight is on. But they don't take it as a challenge from a female, because male and female rank ladder in wild dogs are parallel. They're not the same. There's not like an alpha female. She's not alpha over all the males.
Right.
That's silly, right?
Yeah.
You can have a grumpy female that bitch slaps a dog around a little bit, but if the male got really mad, it would be not a fight at all, right?
Right.
So it's a silly term. It exists for wolves for the sake of breeding, right? It's a select pair that has breeding rights. All the other wolves are support wolves. And yes, it is achieved through a certain amount of rank wrestling and fighting and stuff like that. But it's not this. Whenever humans hear the word alpha, the image of a dictator pops into their mind. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good leader, right? Like alpha wolves are not like a dictator like Hitler or Castro, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I would say that an alpha in a wolf pack is much more like a team leader on Team 6.
Yeah.
Right? He leads his team to success. That's what the team leader does, and that's what a wolf leader, an alpha wolf, is supposed to do. He's not supposed to beat up on them and boss them around and bully them and all that kind of nonsense that people associate with alpha. That's just not true. There's a natural need for pack living animals to establish a certain order, but that's just so they can function. That's not like the beta is always beat up on. That's just not the way it is.
Right.
It's people have to really get out of the house every once in a while and watch nature instead of just imagining things by reading stuff on the internet. Mm-hmm. Like go watch a wolf pack. Go out, or like I had the great fortune to watch wolves in the wild because I lived in Canada for a long time. And when I went moose hunting, there was lots of wolves around. So you can watch them and see what they do and see how they interact and see how they hunt and how cooperative and coordinated they are. This whole drill sergeant idea that doesn't exist. It can't exist, and it can't exist on a SEAL team either. Because they're all like, none of the people on the special ops teams, the real high level, the tier 1 special ops teams, wear the rank insignia. Mm-hmm. Why is that? There's no yes sarge like that, right? Drop down and give me 20. Like none of that stuff can exist at that level anymore. They have to cooperate. There is a team leader that is sort of the strategist, but everybody has a job to do that is equally important.
Yeah.
And if they don't function as a team,
a true pack,
that they don't survive. And that's the same with the true. Like I also got to watch wild dogs in Africa.
Yeah.
Which they're actually closer to our dogs from what I can observe than wolves are. Mm-hmm. They're more playful in adulthood than wolves are, where our dogs are sort of wolves that never grow up, right? They call dogs infantized wolves. Mm-hmm. But that's what animals do in the wild, and there isn't this. You see the clear team leader and pack leader in a dog pack, sort of roll on his back with a a puppy or a lesser wolf, and they're not these grumpy dictators that people always imagine. So what we want is we want extremely powerful dogs. Again, I work in a very specific community, not sort of Lackland Air Force Base type stuff, like really high-end stuff. You want a dog that's very, very tough and resilient against incredible amounts of stress, right? And absolutely aggressive, so that they actually neutralize a threat and save lives, but selectively aggressive, right? So you have this pipe-hitting man-eater running around, and he's running around with 20 soldiers in the dark.
In the dark, yeah.
And he leaves everybody alone, and then he comes across the enemy or the target and lights them up. So you need to have a dog that can learn. You need to have a dog that can differentiate. You need to have a dog that is not so highly defensive that everything becomes a threat, because those dogs don't differentiate well. You understand? Like, they need to differentiate who to be aggressive towards. So it has to be selective aggression, which is not as easy as people think it is, right? Because like the dogs aren't always with the assault teams.
Right.
The assault teams are assault teams, and they practice, and then they send dogs out with them. So it's not like they're buddies living in the same tent for a year. These dogs need to be clear-headed and understand who's good and who's not good, and so on. So you need very powerful and very intense dogs, but you also need dogs that have a very, very clear head. Obviously, we don't want dogs that challenge corrections and things like that very much, because you can't have that, right? I'm sure you saw that video that's floating around from Jonesboro.
Yeah, my area, on the other side of the state.
Oh, like there's lots of experts that go into what happened there on this.
What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I think there was definitely a bit of a painful thing that happened as he came across the fence. But if you look at that dog, and you'd need a little bit more info, but if you look at that dog when the handler approaches, where does he look?
I don't remember seeing
his
that.
Ears up, almost on his hind legs, looking off to the side, up at that board fence.
Okay.
Like he wants to get over that board fence so he can bite the guy on the other side.
Oh, okay.
So he's got the suspect, or at least another human or whatever, in his nose, but he can't access him. That's probably why he jumped over that fence in the first place, to find a way to access the bad guy. The bad guy was apprehended without the dog, but he was there somewhere. But the dog he looked at that board fence, and that's where he wanted to go, right? So now the dog is totally into, I got to bite this guy. I got to bite this guy. The handler lifts him over, pretty much turns him upside down. He probably got pinched a little bit on the fence or the way the guy grabbed him. But in his mind, at this point, he's almost upside down. His head is down. He doesn't even see his handler anymore. Right. He sees more like he wants to fill his mouth with something. Right. Watch it. You already at the fight. Look earlier before he gets to him.
Okay. Hold on.
If you want to look at it, I mean, that's going to do with our topic, but
right. Okay, this is not the right clip. Okay, let me see.
They cut that first piece out there. So he wants to come over, but he's jumping up, and I'm not sure he's necessarily coming up to get back to his handler, or if he's trying to get at something. But just before that, if you back it up a little bit, you see the dog looking up with intent towards the board fence. So he's trying to get at something. So, like, I've had this happen in training before, and officers have had it happen in real deployments. The most dangerous time is when a dog either cannot access the bad guy or is taken off of a bite and taken away. And then he basically has a real hard time discriminating friend from foe. And he may bite the wrong guy. right? Because he's so into filling his mouth. Like if you do a lift off with a dog and take him away from what he just bit, and then you bring him around, and all he wants to do, because he was forcibly removed, all he wants to do is fill his mouth again. And you turn him around, and there's another officer standing there. He's going to latch onto him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's probably a combination of all those things. There could be other things, but we don't want to get into any conspiracy type stuff.
Right.
The dog got pinched when he came over, and he didn't really want to come over. He was kind of torn between staying on that side and coming back. And he was definitely committed to that board fence quite a bit. So think of it from the dog's perspective. He wants to access a guy to bite. And then the handler lifts him over. The dog kind of loses where he is for a second, and all of a sudden he touches body.
Right.
He latches on. Like, how many times do we see the same videos where the dog can't get over the fence, the officer grabs the dog and puts him over the fence, and then there's a guy laying there and the dog bites him there.
Right.
So it was probably a bit of a pain stimulation from the pinch, coupled with mistaken identity.
Right.
Until it's real hard to, like, real aggression when a dog really, you see a lot of protection scenarios and all that kind of stuff. When a dog really bites a human with determination, they're in a totally different state of mind.
Mine says,
So,
right. I'm gonna get some questions in.
Yeah.
It ain't every day you get Armin Winkler live. Street Rossi, this is for me. Hey man, this ain't a good question for the show, but I tell you this: look up Julie Swan. She can help you. She's the best in the game with that type stuff. Your websites, all that good stuff. Julie Swan, look her up. Okay, so Brushline Kennel says, is that a question? Okay, no, he go 416. Why use a Gordon Setter, Hovawart, I can't say that. Instead Laponian, instead of a dog like the
it's
boar.
the Lappish. You know who the Laps are?
No.
They're basically like the natives here.
Oh, okay.
They have the same sort of physical appearance a little bit too, but they're sort of the natives in all the Nordic countries, Finland and Sweden and Norway, and they herd reindeer.
Oh, okay.
They're the only ones that are legally allowed to own reindeer, so they have these dogs to herd the reindeer.
So they'll be more like the Native Americans in the U.S., something like that.
Okay. They actually physically in appearance look maybe closer to the Eskimos than like somebody, not like an Apache, more like an Eskimo.
Oh, more like Eskimo. Okay, yeah.
So,
all right. He says, why use those breeds instead of like the Boar's Hun, which is already 50-50 Doberman bully?
Because it's really hard to sort of start tracking what did what. You know what I mean? If you already breed it to a mixed breed, that how long has the Boar's Hun been breeding true anatomically, physiologically, temperament-wise? And if that has happened, say for 10 generations at least, then it's a consideration. But you want a standardized dog so that you know what your potential outcome is and what you need to erase again and what you need to iron out again. If you just want to have sort of a mixed breed bite dog, there's plenty of them around. If you want to fix the Doberman, you got to be a little bit more selective so you don't ruin the anatomy entirely, you know, and you don't lose the anatomy entirely. And it's a project. It's not going to happen overnight.
It's going to definitely be a process. Yeah.
I said this many, many years ago, over 30 years ago now. I said, breeding a complete solid Doberman is like building a 1930 Ford. You're going to go to 100 junkyards to buy parts to put it together. And that's kind of with the Doberman. There's so many, you know, one dog is maybe a little healthier.
Well, that's kind of how he was made too, though, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, through breeding, he's become this.
Yeah, they fixed him.
Like you go to. I don't have anything against female handlers or anything like that, but the majority of Doberman handlers, breeders, owners are females.
A lot of female. I got a lot of
And
female.
there's a lot of excuses made for dogs for just not being as good as they should be. And whether men or female do that alike, I don't know, but maybe there's more sentimentality with I don't know why. Or maybe females are the only ones that really want to risk the dog like getting eggs on their face because they can't perform the way they're supposed to. Because there's just not that many that can do it anymore. There's been, I think, in the entire existence of KNPV, I think there's been, 3 Dobermans total. Think about that, 120 years. One of them was just a couple of years ago. And one of them was imported here by a Doberman breeder in Tennessee. I worked the dog a fair bit, a dog named Nero, trained by a guy named Tino Kleineschars. But it's like you have to look at the complete dog. There was a time, if you look at the old pictures and the old stuff, and like when I was a kid, my dad's patrol dog was a Doberman.
Right.
My wife, right? She was Norwegian military police, and she worked exclusively Doberman. She had a contract with the military. She was in the canine platoon for a while, and then she was the platoon commander for a while as well. And she had a contract that they would pay her and pay the vet bills and blah 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 for her dogs, and she would work her own dogs. And she worked only Dobermans, and her Dobermans were able to outwork German Shepherds, Malinois, and stuff like that because they were just really, really good dogs. When a dog can do avalanche searches in minus 45 degrees Celsius for hours on end, when the German Shepherds are starting to seize up and get muscle cramps from the cold, and he's still hunting like an idiot, that's a good working dog. On top of it, he would also bite people and do crowd control and just go from one to the other and bite them and part crowd fights like the Red Sea. That's a good working Doberman.
Right.
It's he found, I think, one of the deepest finds he's had in avalanche was a guy that was over 5 meters under snow.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, maybe we talked about that last time.
That's a pretty incredible feat, and like it's just if the dogs are good, if the Doberman is good. When Tassie was over here on a temporary visa for a while, and then she had to go back to get her green card and so blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. She was here for a while, and we went and did a couple of seminars for a ranger regiment. And we had her male along with us. Condor was his name. And he participated in all the stuff that we did with the ranger dogs.
Let me ask you this.
Let
me ask you this.
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to give nobody no promotion, but I really want to know the state of the Doberman where it is now. It's not looking very good.
Nope.
But is there any area in the world that's still like producing some decent stuff?
I would say the highest number of good working Dobermans is still in Germany.
Germany. Gotcha.
That doesn't mean that the numbers are high. It just means the highest number of any country.
Right. Gotcha.
It's because it's a German breed.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Schnauzer also. That there's one breeder, like this Hanoveto kennel that Michelle bred her dog to or used the semen with. She's been very successful. The Czechs have always had some decent workers, but not sort of really top line. But the Czechs were also very connected. Like you hear, how you always hear about a Czech Shepherd?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's a Czech Shepherd? It's a German Shepherd, right? But the Czechoslovakia was under the same umbrella as East Germany.
Yeah.
So if you look at all the really successful Czech line dogs, they're all DDR dogs. That's the blood that made them, right? So that it's not a different breed, but the the communist countries with totalitarian governments had government regulations as to how military capable dogs, working dogs, had to be bred. And when that disappeared, of course, that regulation disappeared as well. But as a result, during the time when the Russia still ruled all those places, those dogs were really, really good. And when communism fell and the wall came down and all that kind of stuff, a lot of these dogs were available for breeding with the existing population, and they really, really improved the breed. There was, unfortunately, they didn't do that with the Doberman. It would have been a very, very nice sort of like injection of new blood, because it had been separated for 50 years, right? So the dogs that were bred in the East were genetically not at all related to the West German lines anymore. So it would have, the only dog that was used somewhat and successfully too was a dog named Jago Akazienhof, who was the father of Ivo von Troy, who was then the father. He's the great grandsire of Baron Lechfeld, who was a two-time German Meister champion in Dobermans. So these dogs were super important, and they weren't used enough, because the Doberman of old was a dog that was a little bit. I
didn't mean to distract you with that.
No. They were a little volatile on the bite. They didn't bite as full. They bit more defensive. They were vocal, and they did a lot of thrashing. Right? Comes from the heritage and what breeds are in there and so on. And that made them very incapable of competing with German Shepherds, right? Because at that time, it was sort of 90s, late 80s, 90s, when all that sort of stuff happened. The grips became sort of the be-all and the end-all in Schutzhund.
Yeah.
Right? Stable grips, calm grips. And the Doberman didn't have that. So they started selecting for those dogs that had it, and they bred a dog that was not as suspicious. They bred a dog that was just sort of who gives a shit type dogs, right? And as a result, they were very competitive in all breed competitions, because the grip was calm and so on. The only thing that went away was the grips weren't as fast and intense as they once were, right?
Right.
So that kind of was a price that they paid by doing that. And you see, if you talk to Dobermans, like the one complaint that people always have with the working Doberman is they fall off bites. They fall off the sleeve on the courage test.
Right.
They don't bite down hard enough. So those dogs have to be super, super elevated in drive and frustration for them to really hang on. And the old dogs would get, they get it with the front of the mouth and it would hold on because they bit fast and hard. But that was sort of bred away. So the East German dogs still had a little bit of that volatility of the old Doberman, because they didn't care what it looked like. They wanted functional dogs.
Right.
A lot of the dogs that came from the East were frowned upon by the current breeding trend, because they didn't have that pretty grip anymore. So all those genetics were lost. Because nobody wanted to breed to them. Very successful. I had long discussions with a super successful German Doberman breeder, maybe one of the most successful ever. The guy named Norbert Schmitz von der Weiermühle was his kennel name. And he just figured that they were nervy. They were, for him, they reacted too much. They weren't calm enough on the grip. They were vocal on the grip. So it didn't fit into his bloodline. But some of the dogs I worked from his bloodlines could well use some of that volatility and intensity that comes from within, you know what I mean? That doesn't need to be created outside by the helper.
Right.
And that there's mistakes made. It's just like the West German Giant Schnauzer was mediocre. It was a mediocre working dog in 1990, right?
Mhm.
Back earlier when I was a kid, it was great. It's a good working dog. Something to watch out for. Like, holy shit, there's a Schnauzer. But by the 1980s and 90s, it became sort of a mediocre working dog. The East German Schnauzers were hardcore working dogs because they had to be, because it was required by law.
Right.
So when the East dogs were bred to the West dogs, of course, there was a huge insurgence of quality Schnauzers. But then they started breeding just like they did before the reunification. And the same thing happened again. So you have the same mediocre dogs. There's still a few good ones, don't get me wrong, but there's, like, as a whole, it was like the Delaware State Police has a big canine unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the early 90s, the entire canine unit was Schnauzers. There was no other breed there.
Uh-huh.
Their t-shirt, their unit t-shirt was a Schnauzer head.
Right.
And why? Because they got all imports. They got all Schnauzers from overseas.
Yeah.
And they were great police dogs. They were very aggressive and violent, and they were exactly what they wanted. And now they don't have Schnauzers anymore. Why? Because the quality of the dogs isn't there anymore.
Gotcha.
And it's because they breed them for dogs that get along, dogs that are not problematic, dogs that are not aggressive, dogs that, every Joe Schmo can own and have. And, training is sort of, if you feel like it. And every once in a while people have trouble, so then they go see a trainer and whatnot. But the real hardcore dogs are really few and far between. Like, even in KNPV, the dogs that were real kind of nasty, that would come up the leash and stuff like that, they're starting to disappear too, because nobody wants to handle them anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody wanted to. They got them over here, and they were used to German Shepherds as police dogs. You can crank on a German Shepherd pretty repeatedly without them really caring all that much. Then they got these Malinois, and all of a sudden they were doing the repetitive prong collar corrections, and the dogs just came up the leash.
Yeah.
Because they stimulated so fast into aggression that they would just needed to let that out on somebody. And for a while, like Philadelphia, for I don't know how many years, had banned Malinois completely as a breed in the police department.
Right.
So it's like nobody protects those 10, 11 breeds, and it bugs me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want a dog that's kind of cuddly and look, the really hard working dogs that I had were cuddly too, with us, with me and my kids and so on. But somebody couldn't just come in, say hi, and then cuddle on the couch with my dog.
Right.
That would be unthinkable, right?
Yeah.
And they had follow through. They weren't just grumpy and sort of lash out fear biters. They had ass behind them. They meant it, and they were really, really serious. Hey!
Yeah. So and so that's the biggest. That's the big thing about it. The general public want the looks, but can't handle those type dogs.
Right.
Period.
But why do they want them? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, if there was a single woman that was like 130, 140 pounds, wanted to buy a Rottweiler, the breeder would look at her and say, not a chance.
Yeah.
And it's breeders want to make money, they want to sell dogs, and I would rather give a dog free to somebody who will do right by the dog and accept them for who they are than make money on somebody who's just going to ruin it all.
Yeah. And then, you know what though, Armin, I don't know, maybe times have softened a little bit, because we did, when I was coming up, my dad, he wasn't no dog man, but a dog had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to be a expert to, you wanted a dog to do something, because we didn't come up in the best neighborhood. Well, we it was fine until certain things like crack started hitting. And environment started changing. So you wanted a serious dog in them days, but most people can't handle them. But I do want to ask this. This is going to be my last question because I don't see they have any questions. Big topic on my show, and you talking about these breeds that are so strong, are historically strong. You talked about the bull herder, strong Dobermans. The e-collar is a big topic.
What about it?
With the dogs you have handled, the type of dogs, traditionally, I don't know when the e-collar was developed, maybe in the 80s, somewhere in there.
Earlier than that.
Yeah. Were you guys having to use that more to correct a dog? Because I see they teach a dog different things. They use it 100 different ways now. What are your thoughts on the e-collars?
So when the e-collar first came out, my mom had one. Partly because the Doberman we had at the time after my dad died.
I remember you telling me the dog was strong for your mom.
He was super, super hard.
Yeah.
And he was very, very gamey.
Yeah.
Like he would jump the fence and chase deer and just like he needed that kind of distance, especially if he beat you to the yard fence and he jumped over already. And he was, you'd see him running in the field. The deer were ahead of him and there was no way to get him out of that except for the e-collar. It was used in a clumsy way back then. It had its purpose. I think people at that time used it more like a hammer, not a scalpel.
Yeah.
Because it was a new tool. And even before the e-collar first came out, Checker was the first collar that came out. It was super, super hot too. Like you brought the probes together, they would arc over.
Whoa.
So yeah, it was a pretty hot collar. And the antenna was a wire with a piece of lead on it that would drop on the ground so that it would transmit to the collar.
Wow.
But neither here nor there. Before then, we used the transformers on the field telephones for the military because they create electricity when you crank them. Right. So those were used for certain things. We had electric mats in the blind in front of the helper. We had electric sleeves, and we had collars with nails with wires that you could also attach to it. And then you have to just go until the dog yodeled. It was very clumsy back then. I didn't like using the e-collar for many years because the only way to adjust stimulation levels was to take the collar off and change the tips on the collar. Right. And then you put it back on and then now it would be hotter than before. And the procedure of taking it off and putting it back on made the dogs way too collar aware for my taste. So I didn't really like them. And I did very systematic training that I didn't really need it at the time, but looking back, there would have been a lot of things that would have been a hell of a lot easier for me if I had one, a good one like I have now. I'm not a big fan of the e-collar training where the e-collar becomes everything's e-collar. You know what I mean? I mean, it has its purpose, but it's not people say that e-collar communicates. Well, what does it say? Well, honestly, I'm asking you. People say it's just a form of communication.
Yeah.
Like the only communication a dog gets is you did wrong. It hurts, right? Now, even if you have it lower, what does it say then? Like you can't have, let's say, on a 4, it means sit. On a 5, it means down. That doesn't work. So you're not really giving the dog a message. It's a stimulation, and the dog associates it with something, good or bad. I mean, you can associate it with things. There's no question about that.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of negative reinforcement because it's unnecessary, in my opinion. There's nothing you can teach with negative reinforcement that you can't teach with positive reinforcement and some physical guidance. You don't need to use negative reinforcement. People are playing really fast and loose with the terminology nowadays too. It's like, well, I mean this by that. Well, it doesn't really matter what you mean. Skinner wrote a book about it, and that's what it means. And if you deviate from that way of applying negative reinforcement, then it's something else. You know what I mean? So long story short, long answer. I like the e-collar. I think it's a very valuable tool in the special ops world that I work in a lot. It's almost an essential tool. It's, you know, it's a way to influence a dog silently at a distance when the dog's working independently, and that's essential in my opinion. A dog, what people in the positive only world don't understand, crisis, don't bark in my ear, don't understand is that, say you have a dog that wants to chase rabbits, right? And you can kind of hold them on a leash and then attract attention to you and give them a treat or a toy or whatever. And you can do that long enough until the dog, when he sees a rabbit, he says, I'm not going to get the rabbit anyways. I'm going for the treat. There's lots of dogs that will work that way. There's no question about that. But what we do is we build intensity for something that is so through the roof for them to be able to function and do the job that we bring them for, that in order to stop them, you're not going to have anything that has higher value or equal value of any kind for the dog. And you don't have time for any of that. The dog needs to obey, the dog needs to listen, and the dog needs to be controllable. Now, I'm a very scientific, high finesse trainer when it comes to that. That's why I ended up having the privilege to work in those units, because I'm not a soldier, I'm not a cop, I'm a dog man. And
right.
I'm able to bring certain things to the job that very few people are capable of worldwide.
Right.
So I use my head and I do a lot of thinking. So we don't use the e-collar like a club. Most of the time we don't need to use it at all. It's a fail-safe in case the dog is, it just fails. It can happen. In combat, we don't ever know how crazy things can get. And a dog's life may depend on it. And, we have good call-offs, very good call-offs and things like that. But if a guy is, the call-off is usually a guy that's passive or, not super enticing. But if a crazy person comes screaming and running at the team with a bomb on him,
yeah,
you may not be able to call the dog off without having an influence tool.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
It's definitely, I think it's an essential training tool.
Gotcha. All right. Well, this is the last question, I promise.
It's also a lot easier on soft dogs because they can connect it much easier with their own behaviors than anything the handler does to them. So I think it's a very good tool, and it's a very humane tool. People just don't understand it. But that's the thing. My wrap up on the breeding experiment. I hope that the breeds that are listed are only suggestions and not chiseled in stone, and that they consider other breeds and that they consider a wider spectrum other than physical appearance and health improvement. Because if they're going to get rid of the Doberman, like if you want to keep the Doberman, keep the Doberman. If you want to make a healthier version of a black and tan pet that sits on the sofa, just
do whatever.
I mean, to me, that's just such an irrelevant thing. So one of your listeners has a question.
Should registries remove pre-existing dogs and only keep healthy specimens? That's going to be tough.
Do you mean pre-existing dogs that died of a disease?
He's talking about Doberman.
Is he talking about dogs that we know have died of a specific disease? Is that what he means by pre-existing?
Should we remove pre-existing dogs? 416 out of Canada. Answer that for me right quick. Should registries remove pre-existing dogs? So yeah, he means dogs that has a track record of being carriers. That's what he means. Yeah.
Okay. Well, carriers is
unhealthy.
VDH, right? And
yeah.
I think you should be flagged.
Yeah.
because I guarantee you will not be able to find a Doberman pedigree that not a single specimen has not had VDH or DCM or something else. You should be made aware of it to make sure that it doesn't double up. You should be made aware of it so it doesn't that it's not too close to the breeding itself. But I mean, the Doberman is the Doberman, and I hope that they breed dogs in this experiment that have a certain health record. But like I said, I think that the breeds that they picked are not the best breeds for it. There's better breeds for it. If you want to preserve the whole Doberman, and who's supervising it, who's monitoring it, who's involved, how much publicity is going to be put on this so that other people can give their 2 cents and so on. Like the Finnish Doberman Club is tiny, and it has very, very few working Dobermans, right? It's very, very small. So they already have such a small gene pool that they should go outcrossing with maybe other countries first. But I'm not against crossbreeding at all. I just think it needs to be the appropriate breed. A dog that doesn't change the appearance too much, a dog that doesn't change temperament too much, a dog that doesn't have a great history of the health issues that the Doberman has, or introduce new health issues. So
yeah, gotcha. Well, guys, Armin Winkler, he's back. He's did a live video with us. I appreciate it. Here's his website. And also, only thing you got to do is Google him. He has plenty of articles and different things like that.
All the articles are on my website.
Yeah, okay. The articles are right here on the website. I'm gonna give him a break, but I want to come back again because we could talk about the Giant Schnauzer, and then we could do a show with you and your wife, which she's a heck of a trainer, and y'all done did all these different things. I have a lot of guys who are interested in security, so they really like doing these shows, and we just really thank you for your time, Mr. Winkler.
Okay, I appreciate being on and giving my 2 cents.
Yes, sir.
I've been around the working dog world for a long time, and the working breeds are very dear to my heart. All of them, really. I've had Dobermans, Airedales, Schnauzers, Malinois mixes. I've never had a German Shepherd. Doesn't interest me that much, and I love working boxers, but I'm not sure if they're the dog for me to have. Hovervart's too hairy, but I've had about all the other ones. I love the Airedales. And there's some good kennels still that use a lot of East blood for breeding. But I think stabilizing of a breed requires a lot of thought and a lot of participants to do it right, and feedback to make sure that it's done right. You know what I mean? Like if they can use the breeds that they listed and eradicate the health problems, but then the temperament of the Doberman is so altered that you don't even recognize them anymore. The other thing that you have to consider that people very often don't, completely non-suspicious dogs, like pointers and setters and dogs like that. If you breed it to a breed like the Doberman that has genetically suspicion, not every specimen shows it, but it's in the breed, it becomes a real, there's going to be some dogs that are so out of their element, they don't even know what to do with the world.
Yeah.
Because they have that sociability and that I'm not allowed to bite thing that's genetic, that comes from, pointers and dogs like that. And then you have that feeling that's a stranger and I can't deal with them, and they're not going to just be social. They're going to be really weird and want to head for the hills. And there's all kinds of weird problems that come from mixes like that. So I would stick to dogs that have similar temperaments and similar purpose in their history, so that you don't go too far astray.
That's facts, because I kind of look at that mixture, the proposed mixture, and I see a very barking dog. Boy, I bet that dog gonna bark like crazy.
You may get that from a Schnauzer too, as well, especially if you use Axe genetics.
Oh, really?
Because he was a pretty yappy dog, but
Oh,
he was a good dog.
Right.
It's just like I said, the experiment of German Pinscher and standard Schnauzer exists. It was done in Sweden in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
You can look it up. I can see if I could dig that issue of the Schnauzer magazine out yet, but I think you can Google it and find it. So there is a model for this, and it was very successful. All the reports afterwards were very successful. So, I think that the Giant Schnauzer is a pretty healthy breed. Still, it's healthier than the Doberman by far. And like I said, with some of the old genetics that Michelle just brought back into the population, I think that would be an even bigger outcross for the Doberman with a anatomical similarity and a temperament similarity. And I think it would make more sense to me than the breeds that they selected so far. And like I said, maybe they're not chiseled in stone and they're open to suggestion and input. I hope they are.
Yeah, you and Lance Woodley talk very highly of Michelle's breeding dogs over there. Michelle, you holding the key over there? So,
I mean, hey, stop it. She had a very nice dog that she got through an importer that came with problems that came from early training in Europe already and made worse by some other training here.
Yeah.
He was one of the best Schnauzers in the country at that time, with mine and hers, and there's a few others here. And there was probably contemporarily in Germany, there probably were better specimens, but they didn't save any semen. They didn't, because it's not allowed there anyways to use frozen stuff. So that there was a lot of really exceptional specimen dogs in all breeds that were lost because it wasn't allowed to use frozen semen. The lady in Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic now, probably they don't have that restriction there. So she was able to do that breeding with frozen semen. So she has a really good working kennel that has her merit by her own right. Hey, enough. And she put an exceptional dog from years gone by into that. So I watch these dogs with interest whenever I get a chance to see clips posted of them. And it reminds me of the old days when Schnauzers were hammers. Right. And it's unfortunate that it's only this one thing, but I think it should be taken advantage of.
She said everyone thought I was crazy to save Axe semen.
Well, I mean, I tried a breeding with Axe and a female we had myself. It was just that she scared him and then he didn't want to. So, but I didn't, I think dogs like that have value, and they have their flaws. They have, like, Axe's barking is definitely a thing. And, the one dog in Germany that I get to see videos of every once in a while, that handler is a very accomplished trainer. And you can see that he controls that barking, because if he gave him this much space to bubble over, that dog would just bubble and boil over. So it is the only sort of breeding of its kind that really exists. A 30-year-old specimen that was a good quality working dog and anatomically very impressive also. To have that there's going to be a lot of people that look at that regret not doing it. I certainly regret not saving some of my own dogs.
Right.
By the time I thought of it, they were too old, or it's just, you always wait. I did a couple of breedings with one of mine that was just an absolute crushing dog, but I did 2 litters with him with 2 different females. And both of the females were good, accomplished, titled dogs and solid genetics, but neither litter turned out not even okay. They just didn't turn out, as far as I'm concerned. Right. And, so I don't know if with another female, it would have worked out differently. But when something like this is possible, and it worked really well for Michelle and Axe, I think it's a great thing. And I think hopefully people are saving, like the guy that had Big Roy. He saved Big Roy. There's new Big Roy puppies on the ground.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he made a smart move on that, because he was a very influential dog. Some of his traits may not be everybody's cup of tea. I certainly don't like the size, but he doesn't always produce that size. So it's, hindsight sometimes is great, but maybe Michelle had foresight, or she was sentimental, and then she tried something out that worked out extremely well. It's just when you see it working, then you kind of go like, this is something, it shows that if you watch those dogs work, they work like the dogs from the past.
Right.
And that's an exceptional thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, sir. Well, it's been a good time. I sure do appreciate it. I got it. Like I tell you, man, my audience is it's more the student mindset. So bridging that gap for us, man. Thank you so much, Mr. Winkler.
Glad to share my thoughts. So.
All right, we definitely gonna have you back, because I want to talk about Schnauzer.
Okay.
All right, everybody, have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
All right.
Step into the realm of canine wisdom with our podcast, NWA Connie Course Shows, where we interview dog men and women from around the globe, discover their talents and insights on breeding, training, nutrition, and the rich history of dogs. Tune in to the most underrated yet influential dog podcast on social media. Your journey into the dog world starts here.